Alrighty, good morning, good morning, good morning. I've got my clever glasses on this morning, but as you'll see, as per the title, this is an optical illusion because there is no glass in them, which is ironic because I've sold and installed glass for 20 years and I'm looking out glass, which I've mentioned in the last couple of videos, but in fact, there is no glass there. And I'll go again to say that I was told literally by an optometrist that the majority of people get glasses for fashion, to appear smarter or just to appear different. And most people don't actually need them. And what else was I going to say? This is a pretty common thing going on. And also, this is what I was going to say, is that with glasses, as shown quite clearly here by this example, it's not at all the glass in the glasses that makes the effect. It's the frames. Because without the frames, there would be no glass, hence no glass. Do you get what I'm saying? Right. Okay, now that we've established a pretty good footing on what I'm going to be talking about, I thought I would go into the topic of the day, which is, what was it? Yesterday's was collective delusion. Today's was optical illusion or enforced delusion. Right. Our system of government and our Commonwealth, our constitutional monarchy, our parliamentary, all these things, they were established before the internet, before laptops and smartphones, before basically everything. Even newspapers, the printing press was not there. The printing press caused a whole lot of trouble, very similar to what we're in now. But nobody believed. I mean, all right, so people believed they were living in the conditions of the newspaper, but they didn't believe that they were confined within the realm of the newspaper, because that would be silly. It was just words. Even if it was pictures, it was cartoons. For the vast majority of media, it was typeface and copywriting, which is an art form, which is being killed a lot like all the other skills in the physical world that have been destroyed by the audio-visual revolution, which I don't think there has been anywhere near enough attention to, considering I am saying, like, if the size of the phones is the very tip, sharpened, bloody, covered fucking tip of the spear, then the spearhead itself is the audio-visual revolution, which stretches all the way back to, I would say, television, but kind of radio. We've seen this effect in radio. This is the War of the Worlds effect. This is where, the people broadcast reading Orson Welles, I think it's Orson Welles, War of the Worlds, or is it H.G. Wells? And did Orson Welles read it? It's one of those ways. I'm going to have to go check later. Sometimes my memory goes haywire. So I'm going to take these off. Maybe I should put these on. You know what I mean? Just keep watching. That's actually way easier. Fuck. I'm gonna do the next 2 minutes with these on and see if you just notice a different fucking vibe. Do I look blind? Well, do I look kind of cool? Look a bit Jack Nicholson-y? As soon as you get these on, you kind of start doing it. Anyway, it shows the effect of reflection, and props and fashion and all these things in your character, especially if you get immediate feedback from a visual screen, which is what I see in front of me. But the cool thing about these is it's dulled it, so it's kind of put me back in my shoes a little bit. I'm like, well, I don't need to look at myself. I'm kind of now just looking. So like these things are clearly affecting everyone. Now, the claim, I'm going to kind of flow on from yesterday's video. The claim that I'm making is that we have been birthing our children within this fucking paradigm for a long fucking time, a lot since television. And that's why we have a president who is a reality TV star doing all these things, who is talking, he's gone to England to talk about free speech, and then he's banning a comedian at home for making a joke, which is so this is just all muddled. But I'm going to even go further and be like, well, what do you expect? Because you all banned him. So his superhero story is all contained within this audio-visual fucking reality, which is not ever what was being governed or should have been governed. And the problem is that every single person in there would not be there. And this is like, well, I will go to the king's desk and I will stand upon it and I'll go, Charles, sorry, I had something in my throat, in my nose. Sorry, Charles. I'll get back to the point. What I was going to say is that it appears that the world's political, all of it, the whole thing, bar you seem to be the only one that's still really, and the other royals, of course, the less important royals of all the less important monarchies. All the political class, business, they're existing in this audio-visual thing. And it's only just now, in this moment, that we're realizing this because of these phenomenons emerging. So we've dumbed down global politics and business and societal development to like Australian Idol or whatever. What was the British Idol? English Idol. What was the first one called? America? Did Simon Cowell just go straight to America and do American Idol? Is that where this started? Did he do the Spice Girls as well? I don't mean do them. Did he create the Spice Girls? Simon, so that's Idol, and then this would be the pinnacle of idol worship, I guess. But where do we go from here? It's just not. I see my largest, and I've gotten, I'm just sometimes a bit staggered. My voice has been stolen by me seeing this so clearly. But it's like the main thing I've been saying, it's like we've been raising children, and I think this is like Peppa Pig and the cartoons now. That's not even fucking humans. They're just on-demand AI fucking cartoons of something. That's like you're just basically brainwashing children straight away. And nothing with that is real. They don't even see real things. There will be children being neglected, hundreds and thousands, millions of them. That's only type of like observation is of this this cartoon reality that it's so fantastic. And like this, I think, sorry, I'll take these off. There's some things that I really noticed with the eyes. The eyes do weird things, and they're not human eyes. They're like false cartoon eyes. And really, there's only one thing that this can lead to is some type of terrible attempted enslavement. And that's why I just want to, commend you on putting this display together that clearly displays the previous paradigm of the British Empire, the paradigm of, all the king's horses and all the king's men with all the reins and the saddles and the brass buttons and the windows and the wheels and the suspension and the gravel driveway and the gardener that does the thing and the stonemason that builds the car, all things on display that are absolutely not existing in the digital paradigm or the audiovisual paradigm, and that cannot be faked with AI or with see, now it's AI, but before it was CGI. And this is America. So we have, Captain America visiting, who is treating the world like a film studio, or even worse, like a television studio. Curating little pieces of information to dull our senses, to dissociate us from real things, from the actual physical environmental world. Like that. That's a little midgie that's flying around me. That's something that probably, more than likely, unless it was for effect, will not be present in these ultra dissociative cartoons, in an ultra dissociated media world, in an ultra dissociated online social media world, in an ultra dissociated everything world. And I guess this argument is maybe a little bit similar to the Amish argument, except it's far worse, I think. The Amish jumped off the ship a long time ago. And, they keep their traditions and customs alive, quite like you, quite like the royal family, like the crown, the whole organization of the crown. But I don't know, different existing in the United States. And I guess more limited in its scope. But where really do our laws sit when you look at all of this? I saw this morning that there was a IT professional working for, I'm pretty sure, the Department of Education in Tasmania, which is all part, I'm in Western Australia and Tasmania is in Tasmania. It's all under the umbrella of the federal government. And this individual had 835 pieces of child pornography on his computer. And he received a suspended sentence for 13 months for this, and was required to do counselling. Now, in this same country, for trying, in my words, my description, for trying to settle basically a micro version of the Troubles in a way that I believe was the least violent, least coercive control, least anything example that potentially has ever been done, in which I was attempting to have dialogue in my own type of court, of my friends and family and peers and people that had been whittled down to people that were really relevant within that family political discussion. That was all superseded, offshot to the West Australian Police, to the West Australian Judiciary, in constant dialogue. I was in constant dialogue with the West Australian government, with the West Australian Premier, with the media, because all of this is like, well, hang on. I was attempting to have this thing, and let's just remind everyone, this has absolutely nothing to do with child pornography. It has to do with a dad trying to see his children and trying to educate his children in the real world. I received for this, and I'll also say that I was threatened with a far larger sentence. I think the sentence I was threatened with was 7 years in prison or 5 years in prison. At no point, really, would I ever consider that I actually had an interaction with any living human being. Wasn't just a jury of my peers. It's like I didn't even speak. I was speaking to a screen. So this is what I'm saying. It's like and I was speaking to a screen while the prison guards were playing Grand Theft Auto. Now, this can only exist in a paradigm of audio-visual delusion, like absolute insanity. Not just here, not just in this place, but everywhere. And I'll say that I'll end this, and sorry, I got a little bit lost, but I received a 9-month suspended sentence. On top of that, my business was like gruesomely sabotaged by the same individual. There was a collective movement to strip all actions I was undertaking in the physical world and to supersede them with this digital delusion. So this is 4 months. What, when we strip down that observation and we go, right, in Australia, you can have 830 pieces of child pornography and literally work for the education department, and you will receive 4 months less prison time than a father trying to bring down the heat of a violent situation that he did not provoke, that he did not benefit in, that he was literally just forced to sit there, watch 10 years of his business be destroyed, watch his reputation be destroyed, all held in this fucking audio-visual gobbledygook while I'm probably in the top percentile in the world of people presenting into that audio-visual fucking paradigm. I'm sorry for the swear word, Your Majesty. It was your family, it was your mother who pioneered this type of international diplomacy via this metric. And that is why I constantly am projecting and like acquiring information and observations and sending it right back to the start. This isn't a claim that I'm not saying you started this mess. I'm saying the world demanded this from your mother, from your family, from your organization. But this is the tail end of this. This is the dark, dusty corner of this phenomenon. And it terrifies me beyond explanation. I also saw yesterday, and some of this social media stuff is quite handy. A little thing popped up and it reminded me of a TV show that was on the ABC when I was a child, and every single Australian, I'm not sure if this was in the UK, but every single Australian child about my age, or person, adult, I'm almost 40, I'm a middle-aged man, will remember Baba, which was a story about an elephant king and a kind of royal family. And basically the entire show was about the morals and the virtues and the traditions and kindness and charity, all the things that I was raised to do, whether this was in Scouts, Boy Scouts, whether this was in organised sport like cricket or field hockey or hockey, whether this was in some of my public education, not a lot of it, but it was. I was saying the other day, I think the one thing that public education does is it does instill, whether intentionally or not, some type of concept that children do keep an eye out for each other. I think it's just because they're all kind of collectively forced to be in prison together. They're put straight in the trenches. But this was a well-established phenomenon. This was well critiqued. Even if you think we don't need no education. And I've just been landed with this in the last couple of months. I've realised, well, they're saying it wrong. We don't need it's a double negative. So is that the genius of Pink Floyd? Are they like, well, I think you may need some education because you've just basically slaughtered the English language in a song, and that can't be unintentional for a song that large. But what I'm claiming now is that this isn't beginning in pre-primary, in kindergarten. This type of it's beginning on these devices and on this audio-visual model. And I just refuse to be governed on that paradigm because it doesn't mean anything. It is entertainment. I put it to you, and I'd like to hear your response. I kind of believe that even when your mother first stepped into this arena, or previous to that, your grandfather or your uncle were floating around, and I don't know whether I think there was a bit of video, but I think maybe that was projected in cinemas. Maybe there was a bit of radio, but even then, say the portion of entertainment was maybe 50%, and then the actual, diplomacy and things, and that was maybe 50%. And it was a novelty to kind of see this, and it was an attempt to unify, say, the empire, which it was still an empire, but we've had an arms race of this audiovisual war with the United States since those days. And I'll remind everyone again, it's like, what is the largest running children's TV show or, cartoon? It's like The Simpsons. And I'm just like, well, there we are. So it was The Simpsons. It's like, and your great uncle married. This is why you're the king. So there we are. So it's basically, and I'm going to have to draw it out because unfortunately I think a lot of people have trouble. So it's like your great uncle, your great uncle, your great uncle Edward the Eighth was king. I believe really he was the first king to ever use these tools. Maybe their father did, maybe on radio there were recordings. I'm not sure. Maybe film, maybe just film, maybe silent film. I'll have a look when I'm finished and I'll get down to the specifics. So it's immediate, And if we claim that the abdication by your great uncle was really what started all this, and he's abdicated because like this is getting into some really, really dodgy kind of territory. And you'll excuse my kind of like casual explanation because this is just how I am, because I was raised by my television, and this is a kind of cobbled together persona through this audiovisual onslaught. And that's why, like, I believe I could get to a point where, where I could participate in the level that you've held, and I commend you on holding that tradition. Thank you. Thank God that you have held that. But I have been, exposed to what I've been, and this is the reality of that. This is the manifestation of that. What I see is a bunch of people projecting into the audiovisual thing some type of, they go, oh, I can't be that level, so I'll go here and I'll stay in this politically correct circle, and then I will just act as if. And it's like, but that's missing the whole thing. The whole audiovisual concept is, I consider, the largest threat to humanity, with the most intense version of that is the small handheld version. And we've seen this progression in other technologies. We've seen this in weapons. So it's like, if you do have 6 horses carrying artillery with cannons, there's a lot of people and organization to get that cannon to where you need to get. And then you can shoot one round every maybe minute. I don't know. Maybe the British Royal Guard can get that down a bit quicker. You compare that to a handheld automatic machine gun, which I believe the iPhones and the handheld smartphones in general, that is what they are. So we're just surrounded by machine gun fire into the audiovisual. And that's why I feel that a presentation like you put on yesterday is so impactful, because, well, it would be impossible for any single person on earth right now to ever, I think, garner that type of power to assemble something like that. Because it's not just, you don't just pull a uniform out and grab your gun, practice your fancy things. It's everything involved in that. The horsecraft, the horse equipment, the tradition, the every single supply chain and every single thing, the dedication to do these things, the passed down, heretical knowledge of these roles, everything within that is basically, I think, sending a clear message across the Atlantic. You are treating the president with hospitality, because I believe that this is the message. This is the message that he must take home, is that in an age of 360-degree surveillance, it's just not going to do to not have these types of ceremonial, traditional, cultural, exaggerated displays before committing any type of armed or psychological or invasionary audiovisual warfare. Because why would we? Why would we do that? And that's why I just resort back to the British Empire, and I can see the whole thing. It's Edward VIII abdicated, which puts your grandfather as the king, King George VI. And I'm sorry, I just really sometimes, George VI. Then you're in this, and your entire life has been held captive within the demand for this audio-visual display on, starting at cinema, then going to television, and now being held on phones. But your display has not changed. And that is what is being shown. We've had exaggerated depictions of what everyone should now have seen yesterday in films such as Star Wars and Star Trek and things like that. And a lot of time, there is a constant thing in the Star Wars that the Empire is some bad thing. But we've got to remember that this is coming from the United States of America. And I love that if anyone goes and watches the speech that the king made at the banquet, the rebel leader, George Washington, the rebel leader. And this is where we are. We're still there. The rebel leader, George Washington, claimed he would never set foot on British soil and didn't. And now we've had, 16 presidents, with the current president visiting twice. But my claim is that if every single television set and every iPhone and every handheld smartphone, every laptop, every computer, every radio, every cinema, every printing press was destroyed tomorrow, what we would be left with inevitably is the British Empire with Charles III, I think it's, you would excuse me if I've got that wrong, as emperor. And with the only role of that emperor, in my determination, the only role would be to liberate people from this audiovisual scourge, from this war, and to immediately proceed with repairing the damage that, 80, 90, 100, 110. It's tricky. Where do we really start? Where's the real crucial point with this? Where did this really kick off? It's had its height. It's had the space race. It's had the Cold War. It's had Thriller by Michael Jackson. And I will put that there. When we go look, Thriller from Michael Jackson will be looked at as kind of this high watermark of this phenomenon, and bad and good. And I believe this moment, where a pedophile that works for the government with almost 1,000 photos of child pornography on his computer received 4 months less. And really, when we get to the 4 months less, it's like, well, I wonder if he had his business destroyed and he had his children taken off him and he had his reputation destroyed and he had to sit there for 2 years and speak to a fucking phone in order to plead his case. No, I don't think any of those things. So that 4 months is really fickle. But that seems to be a low point when compared to someone shared, I think, maybe 2 photos of his ex-partner in an attempt to plead for a diplomatic answer to a conflict that was not of this place. It was brought here. And the only way it could ever exist is where every single man does not have the right to establish his own court in family political matters, especially ones so important. This is the basis of civilization here that we're talking about. And we can see in Australia that a pedophile, or at least, I don't know, whatever you'd call that, is it a pedophile? Yes. If you have 830 pieces of child pornography on your phone, you're a pedophile. So we live in a country where pedophiles, and not this isn't high ranking. This isn't like priests and politicians and media moguls. This is an IT person that worked for the education department, was treated better in this paradigm. I'd call that a low point. And the reason why this was able to exist? Well, I guess my family didn't have enough horses. It didn't keep its lawns quite as nice while being attacked since birth. It couldn't go into its wardrobe and pull out the uniforms. Our uniforms, I don't know whether we wore uniforms. There are a lot of military medallions and things, but I guess running from this American onslaught, suitcase in hand, I guess we misplaced some of those things. I guess the 80 years of American invasion really did convince the people of Australia that pedophiles who work in IT for the fucking education department should be treated better than Australian fathers, small business owners, not just tradesmen, but guildsmen, protective of their entire supply chain and skill set, dating back to the fucking pyramids. So I guess time will tell what the master and the apprentice do now that they've got the fucking world's attention. Do they put their fucking penny in the carousel and ride their fucking horses around while they fucking play music? Or do they cut the fucking cord and re-establish a physical fucking world that we can all live in and end this fucking nonsense once and for all?